Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm once again playing my beloved Turbodepths, and we are on the Golgari build because there's an awful lot of Blood Moons and Makes of the Moons running around, and this build is really good against those, whereas the Rainbow build has slightly lower percentages against them. So I think this is the better Turbodepths build in the meta right now. If you're unfamiliar with this combo, we have Dark Depths. We either remove all the counters from it using a Hexmage, which makes us 20/20, or we copy it and we have a copy that doesn't have any counters on, so we have a 20/20. So two ways of making a 20/20, and we can find them with Sylvan Scrying and crop rotation. So we're very dedicated, well, we're exclusively dedicated to making our 20/20 and winning. We've got fast mana to power this out. We've got disruption for our opponent's hand to take out pesky removal spells or counter spells or whatever. We've got forms of protection like Pithing Needle from Karakas and Wasteland, and Not of This World from removal. We've got a few silver bullets in the land that we can go and find. So we've got a couple of Boseiju we can get with Sylvan Scrying, which is also excellent because it's a green source, so it can kind of let us play our game whilst also being a silver bullet. A Bojuka Bog to try and just beat the graveyard matchups that are going to race us. Generally, we don't want to interfere with our opponent's plan. We want to be able to just beat them and deliver our plan. But there are some decks like Ouphe spells and Reanimator where this can save you the game. We've got Ghost Quarter, which we play instead of Wasteland because we're usually going to be naming Wasteland with Pithing Needle, so this can blow up Karakas or whatever. And a Sejiri Steppe to give our creature protection when we go through. That's pretty much it. This particular build is slightly different to previous ones. We've moved one Not of This World into the sideboard, and we've got one additional Inquisition of Kozilek in the main deck. The reason for this is the most popular deck at the moment is Bug Beans, and Not of This World doesn't protect you from their removal for it, which is usually going to be the Shoulder's Edict, whereas Inquisition of Kozilek hits both Brazen Borrower and Shoulder's Edict, and we're running this main because there's a lot of, like I said, Ancient Tomb decks with Blood Moons and things in, so this can hit Blood Moon or Magus or Opposition Agent, as well as being able to slow down Goblins, whereas Duress doesn't get to do that. Speaking of Duress, in our sideboard we've got a couple of copies for when this is good against various combo decks or slower control decks. We have 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate and Surgical Extraction, and there are some decks that can ignore what we're doing and clock us, and they tend to be artifact decks. So we've got, well, there are the graveyard decks or artifact decks, so that's what our stuff to interact with the opponent is in terms of when we need to stop them. So we've got 4 Null Rod effects and 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate. So that's kind of covering that. And the other side here is what's covering the stuff that stops us. So Abrupt Decay hits Blood Moon, Magus of the Moon, Opposition Agent, Ensnaring Bridge, all that sort of stuff. And another Not of This World. I do think you want 4 of these in your 75. I just don't think we want the full 4 in the main right now. And then a couple of Duress, like I mentioned. So that's it. That's the list. If you are interested in this deck, I have a lot of content for this on my Patreon. I have a very detailed guide that gets updated every month talking about the different shifts in the meta, changes to the decks in the meta, what that means for us and how we can build to beat that. And it covers both green-black Turbodepths and rainbow Turbodepths. So definitely check it out. And there is also a free tier on my Patreon which has a guide to playing budget depths as well. If you want to play the cheapest build of this, you can. There's like different iterations of however much you have. But this particular list I'm playing right now online only costs 147 ticks, so it's not a very expensive deck. Anyway, remember to like and subscribe, and let's just start jamming some 2020s down our opponent's throat. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past, so why not give them a try? We are on the play for round 1. Our opening hand doesn't really have what we require, so we're going to mulligan this one. This is not it either. We don't have access to a Dark Depths. We can't really keep hands that don't have access to Dark Depths at all. Okay, this one looks alright. We can keep this. We can throw back an Urborg. We probably have to keep this Spirit Guide because we need the green mana. So it's probably the Inquisition of Kozilek that goes here. We've got more hand disruption in our deck than we have Pithing Needle effects. Our opponent is also mulligan to 5, so maybe we're supposed to keep the Inquisition there. But I just don't want to get bodied by a Wasteland here. We didn't know our opponent was going to 5 when we made our decision either. So I don't think it's right to keep the Inquisition there. Dryad Arbor. Sure. Right, let's go Sylvan Scrying, shall we? This will get us our Thespian stage. The next turn we have a 20/20. If we can find another Elvish Spirit Guide, that'd be great. But probably unnecessary. Flagstones. Okay, so we're green-white depths. This is a horrible matchup, though. So we need to try and win the game as soon as possible here. Elvish Reclaimer, that's too slow to matter here. Because the lands it gets come into play untapped. Alright, we do this one first because it means that any green source gives us the combo again. Alright, opponent. Please don't ruin our day. Feels like our opponent might have a Swords to Plowshares over there. Or were they thinking about activating their Reclaimer? Outland Liberator. Okay, so this can destroy our Pithing Needle. So if we should have... No, because they need the mana for this and they also need the crop rotation mana. So we should be fine to do this. So if they have crop rotation, it's obviously a pain. But like I said, if we draw any green land, we get to make our combo. Right, if this resolves, we'll have green mana so we can do a Sejiri Steppe. Alright, we've got a crop rotation here. This is going to get them a Caracas. This is unfortunately not something that we get to interact with using our crop rotation. So this is the planes they got off the flagstones and they'll get the Caracas and bounce this. So Sejiri Steppe won't help here. Oh, they've got a Maze of Ith. Do they not have a Caracas? Okay, so we can't destroy this without our opponent being able to tap it first. Okay. That is interesting to me that they don't have a Caracas in their deck. Or if it's in their hand, which is obviously bad as well for us. We have this beat though. If that's all they have, then I'll take it. Crop rotation, you say. So what are we losing here? Oh, they've got Yavimaya in play as well, actually. It's pretty handy. Right, we will crop rotate away our Urborg. We'll go and get ourselves the Ghost Quarter here. We'll take out this Maze of Ith. Alright. Our opponent's Yavimaya is really helping us out here because this gives us the second green for this crop rotation. So we get to Sejiri Steppe here. And unless they have something like a Glacial Chasm, we should be fine. Alright, they know what we're going to get there. Okay, so we managed to get game one, which is nice, but this matchup is not very good. So we're going to have to get fortunate here. So there are various things that we can want in this matchup. So I'll put them over here and talk through them quickly. So Not of This World protects us from Swords to Plowshares and Caracas, so that's a given. Abrupt Decay can deal with Knight of the Reliquary, which is a real problem, and sometimes deals with Elvish Reclaimer. We don't care about that as much because the lands come in tapped. But that's something to worry about. Surgical Extraction allows us to deal with the Wasteland and then get rid of them all. So I don't normally like bringing these in, but that's just something that you can bring in if you want as a singleton. I wouldn't normally bring in all four, but I think it's worth talking about. Bojuka Bog is not something we necessarily need here. Like if our opponent gets in the weeds and starts doing the long game and grinding through, then we've probably already lost anyway. So I don't think we require that one. So that gives our Not of This World. And if we want these Abrupt Decays, we're going to have to try and squeeze out something else along here. So Inquisition of Kozilek does hit all their removal and their creatures, as does the Thoughtseize. So I think we're probably trimming on fast mana here to play a couple of Abrupt Decays. I think I will trim a third piece. Oh, they have Collector Ouphe as well. They're going to keep the Collector Ouphe in, is the question. Because that determines whether or not we brought out Lotus Petal. So Lotus Petal gives us a turn one, which is really what we need in this matchup to just go super fast. Right. So we're going to have 3 Abrupt Decays in. We don't want to end up flooded with them, but we may want one at some point. Generally what we want to do is combo as soon as possible and just play through one thing our opponent has. Because they have so many things in their deck that interact with us that if the game goes long and they get to put multiple things on the stack, then we're just going to lose. I don't particularly like this one. We don't have... Well, we do have access to Dark Depths, but it comes at quite a cost here. I think we can do better. Like, this is a better hand. So we'll keep this. I'm not a big lover of the Cradle, because it does turn our opponent's stuff on as well. But we do need the lands. So I think we probably drop the Scrying here. Well, no, Scrying hits our Boseiju. So maybe there's an argument for keeping the Scrying over the crop rotation. I think we are going to keep the crop rotation though. It's just an intrinsically more powerful Magic the Gathering card. Sejiri Steppe. It's not really what our opponent wants to begin the game on. Alright, 2 Pithing Needles is actually pretty handy. Because we can name Caracas or we can name Maze of Ith. Caracas is obviously worse because it just gets rid of our 2020 instead of fogging us until we can find a way through. Alright. Is this going to be Sylvan Library? Nothing. Interesting. Lotus Petal. I think our opponent's got a Force of Vigor here. Okay, I don't think we need to do anything here. If they've got the Force of Vigor and they take out our Lotus Petal and Pithing Needle, that's annoying. But if they take out 2 Pithing Needles, that's worse for us because that just turns on their whole bevy of wastelands that they can point directly at our special bits and pieces. Alright, so there is a wasteland. 3 mana. It's going to be a Knight of the Reliquary. And a Mox Diamond. So we can either deal with the Knight of the Reliquary with our Pithing Needle, or we can deal with the thing that they'll fetch up. Our opponent's got some cards in hand. I think we're going to Inquisition of Kozilek them here. Alright, so they've got a crop rotation and they've got a Swords to Plowshares. So we name the Swords to Plowshares. We take the Swords to Plowshares here, I think. Alternatively, we take the crop rotation and the Pithing Needle names the Knight of the Reliquary. And then we just hope that we can get through with this. Although the prismatic ending on our Pithing Needle was kind of annoying too. So I think the correct play here is to take the prismatic ending. So this leaves our opponent able to tutor for the thing that messes us up. And plow our guy. So we can cover the plow with the Sejiri Steppe. So we just need to cover the Knight of the Reliquary and crop rotation, which we can hopefully do with one single thing. So I will name it Caracas. It didn't have Caracas in the previous game, but they must have Caracas. But we haven't seen the Caracas. Are we supposed to name the thing we do know? I think we're supposed to name the thing we do know. So they could have things like Ghost Quarter. They might have one of those in their deck. Like I said, their whole deck is just stuff that's good against us. They got Wastelands, they got Maze of It, they got Caracas, they got Plows, they got endings for our needles. They've just got it all, and it's a real pain, to be honest. We don't necessarily know what's coming out of the Knight. Okay, the Knight's just being aggressive. That's all right for us. So we need another mana source, and then we can try and go off. It's not going to get better for us here. All right, we have the other mana source we need. So we have the ability to go off with Sejiri Steppe protection. That is our strategy. We know 2 of our opponent's cards. We can't sacrifice the Yavimaya to take them off of green if they sort of just leave up a wasteland or something. Alright, so we have full information of our opponent's hand here. We'd love to see this attack with the Knight here. Alright, I think we actually have this game now. So this gets crop rotated away. Green, green, and this. Now if they do have a Ghost Quarter, then they get us here. But we need to do something here, otherwise we are losing the game. This is our last opportunity to Ghost Quarter here. Okay. So they can try a Plow, and we can say no to that. Do they have a Caracas? Feels like they do. They do. Alright, so that's probably the game in that case. They didn't show it to us in the previous game, which is interesting. Maybe it was just a sideboard thing they had. Alright. It's going to be pretty hard for us to come back here, but not impossible. Actually, is it impossible? No. It is with that draw. Alright. Yeah, so we could have named the Caracas, but again, we didn't know that there was going to be a Caracas in there. Like, we had to imagine it would be, but Maze of Ith also stops us from winning the game too. Just an unfortunate one, really. So, what do we want to do differently? Do we want more fast mana? I don't think so. The Knot of This Worlds are excellent here. I think we're just going to go back in. Okay, this has a lot of disruption as well. I'm going to begin with with an Inquisition, actually. We will get a Bayou here. If our opponent wastelands us, that's going to suck for us. But they should be saving their wastelands for our important lands. No wasteland there. They have their own Dark Depths. Interesting. So they've got a Plow. They've got a Library. Interesting. So we take the Plow this turn. Or we can take the Library this turn and just shut them off of any plays next turn. Because if they could draw a Mox, they might have a play next turn. So I think we take the Library. And then next turn we can Thoughtseize plus Pithing Needle if our opponent plays this Yavimaya. They're more likely to play the Yavimaya than they are the Dark Depths, because the Dark Depths could give us a combo. Yeah, there's the Yavimaya. There's a Wasteland over there, is there? Okay, so we'll take this Plow and we'll play out this Dark Depths. Play this out, naming Wasteland. Okay. There's definitely a way through this game for us. Like, we can tutor for our combo next turn. There is the Wasteland. Okay, found a play here. What is it going to be? Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. So this is going to be an Elvish Reclaimer. It's going to be pretty good. We have full information of our opponent's hand. So I kind of want this Boseiju to blow up our opponent's land that they get with the Reclaimer. So I think we're supposed to Sylvan Scrying here. And then play the land we find off the Sylvan Scrying. Then next turn, if we find a land, we get to... yeah, so next turn if we find a land, we get to make our 20/20 and then blow up the thing while it's still tapped. In case that's relevant. Alternatively, we can have a little poke with the Thoughtseize if we think that's the important thing to do. There's our opponent's Dark Depths. Not of This World is an excellent find. So, what do we want here? We can either... No, we need this land for the... to actually do our... Oh, no, we don't, because this taps for mana because of their Yavimaya, doesn't it? So our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. There's one mystery card over there. The thing is, sacrificing the land is part of the cost here. So we could get caught short if we don't play this land out. And it means we have to hold up all of our mana here. Unless we tap this first and we just go for the combo now, but that seems like a recipe for failure. Alright. Let's see what they find here. Right, they're going to sacrifice the Dark Depths. So that means we are going to be able to use our... Okay, so they've got a Caracas over there. That is an acceptable thing. We have that beat with our Not of This World. This can only get one other thing. And that's going to be tapped. So we shouldn't have to worry about that. Our opponent's Dark Depths. If we target our opponent's Dark Depths, that doesn't really help us out very much. Because they can sacrifice this and fizzle our ability. Okay, it feels like they're going to be sacrificing their Yavimaya to deny us some mana here. They only have one white source at present. So they don't have the mana to cast a Plow and Caracas. They should be doing this on our turn here with the Caracas. Because if we untap, we'll have more mana to maybe defend it. Our opponent's got one mystery card in hand. The 3 cards we know about don't do anything. Alright, we got the game. Oh, that was a slog. That is a really tough matchup. That's one of the worst matchups that we have, to be honest. Like that and lands are pretty horrible matchups. So getting to win this one feels good. All right, let's go to round 2 and see if we can keep this streak going, because I feel quite fortunate to get through this one. Like, obviously we played well to do it, and we correctly assessed what was going on and how best to approach what our opponent was bringing to the table. But nevertheless, you still have to get a little bit fortunate in a bad matchup, and we did. So let's go to round 2. We are on the play for round 2. We have a turn 2 kill with backup, provided... actually, no, it's not quite turn 2, is it? No, hold on. Ignore me, because this needs to be... We need black, black, and we need green. We don't have all of those things. So we're actually a turn... So we play this on turn 1. Turn 2... this is a little bit awkward. Would love to have had a green source here. It does have a good selection of tools for us to work with. This is a... Wait, if we... So turn 1, we... Sylvan Scrying for, let's say, Urborg. No, it has to be... Oh, this is a really awkward hand. It's so close to being what we want. I think I will keep it, because any green source off the top gives us the turn 2. So I think it's definitely worth keeping this. So we are playing the Swamp Lotus Petal, holding up crop rotation, I think is the plan. Gives us game if they're playing Reanimator. I think that's better than spaffing this Sylvan Scrying up the wall right now. Blue to Delta. Okay, so we're probably going to have to get through some amount of counter spells here. Whether that's Daze or Force of Will. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe it is Reanimator. And I've been paid off for this, holding up this Bojuka Bog. 2 big scary friends. Say hello to the big scary friends of Sire of Insanity. That's an oldie but a goodie. Have they got a Lotus Petal? They do have a Lotus Petal. And another one. And another one. They're going to combo us off here. They're going to storm in off. Reanimate. If the last card in their hand is... Yeah, so if the last card in their hand is Shallow Grave, they get us here. But I don't think we can afford to play around that in this situation. Well, we don't have a way of playing around it other than just saying, letting Sire of Insanity hit us, then we lose the game. So our opponent might scoop to this, because they're going to be substantially down on resources now. We need a green source, though. Bayou would probably be the best draw in our deck at this point. And it's not a Bayou, is it? Right, we're going to play this tapped and pass. So this sort of matchup is another reason why Not of This World isn't amazing in the main. Like, you know, it's obviously still great for our deck, but it's not a thing you want a 4 of. All right, that's pretty bad news for us. They found it in Tombs, so they've got another monster. They got a reanimation spell. Looks like they do. It's an animate dead. It is an animate dead. I don't believe we're beating this. If they go to look at our hand, I will scoop with like a discard spell, because I don't think giving them the information is going to help. And this situation, we don't really have anything to get us out of it. Like, we can't even put a 20/20. I guess we could take a hit and then take another hit, but by that point they're going to put another monster into play because they're going to have drawn like 21 cards. Like, the second monster is definitely the death knell for us. There's a Dark Ritual. Right, they want to see our hand, so I'm going to say no. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some graveyard hate. Surgical Extractions, get in here. Duresses are also useful here. The Abrupt Decays are important because our opponent can play Magus of the Moon. We do not require these Pithing Needles. We do need our fast mana. The Sejiri Steppe is quite nice, but we don't actually need the Ghost Quarter here, so we can strip that one out. And then it's a case of, what are we doing here? I think we need all of this disruption. So the question is, what disruption is best for us? I think the Inquisition is better than Duress, actually. So maybe we don't board in the Duresses. Although if we're on the play, they are pretty nice. If we want the fast mana shot, we're going to roll in like this with one Duress. So we've got 8 main deck pieces of hand disruption. So this is a turn 1 Inquisition with Surgical Extraction backup, but we don't do our own game plan here. I don't think we can keep a hand that doesn't have our own. Okay, this is the same hand but better. So that's what we like to see. We can throw away. This is our only green source, but we don't need a green source for our hand to win the game here. Or actually, no, we throw away the Lotus Petal, right? And we can keep the green source for later on. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, our opponent's mulligan to 5, so our Thoughtseize is relatively higher impact because we get to take a larger percentage of our opponent's hand. 4 cards. If they've got a ley line, that's awkward for our Thoughtseize, but our Surgical Extraction is still online. Okay, they've gone to 3. So we could end up Thoughtseizing a monster into the graveyard here. By sequencing the Urborg, it also allows us to Dark Depths earlier. Okay, we will take the Show and Tell. Show and Tell attracts. It's not a terrible hand to have. When our opponent sort of nears 3 mana, we might be tempted to Surgical. They've still got Graveyard Hate. Also, I've not seen this artwork of this card before. I like the little creatures. Like little Pokemon. Alright. That's pretty handy, but we're not in the market for this yet. We're just going to deploy a Thespian stage, I think. Abrupt Decay. So we have a choice with our Surgical Extraction. If we think our opponent's going to hit a land, we can Surgical Extract. So we'll have a window after they start cracking fetches. If they play another land and then start cracking fetches, then we can Surgical and take this Show and Tell out of their hand. Right, so we don't care about the first fetch. That is a basic swamp. Now this is the tricky point. Are we supposed to Surgical Extract Show and Tell here? I think so. Because you don't get a window after this fetch is resolved. This might not matter to our opponent at all. But a lot of their creatures we can beat with what we have here. Because we can make this, next turn we can crop rotate, get ourselves Sejiri Steppe and push through. That's why you don't board out a Sejiri Steppe against Reanimator. Because it just gives you a way of going through one of their big monsters. Alright, we got the win there. So, I think our opponent was probably on the Show and Tell line there. So that was quite nice. I don't think we want this additional Duress, and I don't think we want to cut any Abrupt Decay. I think we're just going to go in as is. Being on the draw here is obviously a bit of a pain. But we have a lot of good early interaction in the form of crop rotations and surgicals, and obviously our hand disruption. Like, basically this entire 16 card package is going to be effective in some way. So this opening hand has none of that interaction. So this is a straight up mulligan. Alright, double Surgical Extraction, Thoughtseize, Inquisition of Kozilek. This is pretty good at stopping our opponent from winning the game. And we can present a threat of our own. I think this is acceptable. We have to put 1 card away. We already have the Thespian stage here, so I think we actually get rid of the Hexmage here. So this beats Show and Tell, and it also beats Reanimate lines. But we will need to find a win condition. This matchup is quite skewed. Like on the draw and being on the play is a little bit different as well. If you're on the draw, then you kind of need to have more of a way of actually winning the game, I think. Whereas if you're on the play, you need more of a way of winning the game because you get to go first. So you get your piece of hand destruction, then you need to go somewhere with it. Whereas here, we're just trying not to die on turn 1. So a hand like this is pretty effective at doing that. And eventually we'll draw something. Our whole deck is dedicated to doing our combo. All right. So, okay, we found the green source. That's excellent news. We will cast an Inquisition of Kozilek. This hits all their reanimation spells and their show and tell without hitting any of their monsters. There's a show and tell. Our opponent's on a similar trajectory as before. But now we have the double Thoughtseize here. Oh, sorry, the double surgical. So we can actually surgical the show and tell without worrying about them putting something else in the graveyard. So we can do that on turn 3. Right, there's the Verdant Catacombs. Sylvan Scrying. Okay. We're getting towards our plan here. I would like a Dark Depths, please. So in our opponent's draw step, we're going to surgically extract this show and tell. If this doesn't get blue mana, then I might not do that. Okay, they got blue mana. They do have 1 Magus of the Moon in their deck. There's a Dark Ritual there as well. Shallow Grave. So they do have the Shallow Grave, but it's a one of. Magus of the Moon. Triple Archon of Cruelty. All the fun stuff. Okay, so they might just put a Grief into play right now. Yep, so there is the Dark Ritual. The Grief cannot take our combo pieces, which is another reason why I think this matchup is pretty good. Main deck Graveyard Hate. Our combo pieces don't get hit by Grief. Good hand disruption package, you know. It's obviously scary sometimes playing against this deck. But we are doing some stuff right now. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. We do not want to cast Thoughtseize into this. The question is, are we casting Sylvan Scrying here? We need to fade our opponent drawing Magus of the Moon this turn. So do we scry for something that helps us beat Magus of the Moon? I think we probably do. Right, so we're going to Sylvan Scrying for a basic forest here. So if they can put... Because they're not going to be able to put a monster into play this turn. Because they need 2 cards to do that. Because the show and tells are gone. So if they just top deck Magus of the Moon, then we play the Dark Depths. And then we can play the forest and blow up their Magus. And then we win the game. We can't really Thoughtseize our opponent because it might help them with the Atraxa. Alright, so now we can make a 2020 in response to a Magus of the Moon. We didn't see any answers for our 2020 apart from the Archon of Cruelty. Unless I missed something there, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see any answers for it. So we should just be able to make our friend and have a nice little smash of our opponent's face. Alright, activate Thespian stage, target Dark Depths, keep the Thespian stage, make 2020, win the game. Alright, we win the game and the match. Alright, we're 2-0 now. We're having to work for our wins a little bit, but that's fine. I don't mind doing that. I have a lot of fun playing this one. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, our opening hand for round 3 doesn't have a reliable green source. We only have half of our combo. Let's mulligan for something better. Alright, this is something better. So we'll chuck back this Dark Depths we don't require right now. We can play this on Wasteland. And then we're all good, really. We just kind of have an uncounterable combo in hand. Right, what flavour of Flooded Strand deck are you? Please don't be a blue-white based control deck. Because that's a bit of a doozy for us. One of the other horrible matchups. Because they have Wasteland and Life from the Loam. They have 8 main deck ways of killing Marit Lage. They got Uros to like get above the life total cap. It's a lot. So we play out Thespian stage first, because if we draw another piece of fast mana with this hand, then we get to make the Marit Lage next turn. Now this can get picked up by a Prismatic Ending, but they will not be able to Prismatic Ending and Wasteland us in 1 turn cycle. Not yet, anyway. A Ponder, alright. They didn't shuffle off their previous Ponder. So it could be tempting to use this crop rotation to try and make our combo on turn 3. But the problem with doing that... Oh wow, look at that. That thing that I said has happened. But the temptation would have been possibly to turn this into a Yavimaya or Urborg and go. But the issue with doing that is we play into a counterspell, and our whole hand is pretty good against counterspells here. So we are showing our opponent that we can win the game right now. But if they don't have a Source to Plowshares, that's good. But if they do, that's obviously not going to work for us. So what we need to do is wait another turn, get our crop rotation down. But if they don't have a white source up at end step, then we will obviously make our creature and see if it's good. Our opponent's done a lot of sculpting. So if they got Source to Plowshares, they're probably going to be in their deck. They might be throwing away counter magic here because they just need to find cantrips into removal. Alternatively, they can concede without having us to go through it. We don't really know what our opponent's playing is the issue here, because we've only seen blue cards, right? We've seen Flooded Strand and we've seen Scalding Tarn. The basic island tells me our opponent is more likely to be on the control or combo spectrum than tempo, but that's not always the case. So, what do we do here is the question. We're unlikely to want Bojuka Bog in this matchup, which brings us another Not of This World. We don't know if they're going to be having Wastelands, so I don't think we can afford to get rid of the Pithing Needles. I think we just have to go in with this setup again. So we could bring in some Abrupt Decay, like an Abrupt Decay, just as a nice catch-all, but I think we're going to rely on our Boseiju to do that sort of job. And we're just going to go in because we don't have enough information other than our opponent's playing blue spells. Like, maybe we want the Duresses, maybe we don't. Like, this hand is fine. It's not lightning fast, but it's uncounterable 2020. So that's the first battle won. We just need to make sure we can get through our opponent's removal. All right, so next turn we can Sylvan Scrying and see what that does in terms of our opponent's interaction. Okay, this could be Bug Beans. Let's Sylvan Scrying here for an Urborg. Is this good enough for a counterspell opponent? It is not. All right, I'll take this Urborg. This allows us to Thoughtseize next turn as well. So we have 2 Thoughtseizes to punch through our opponent's bits and pieces over there. And then we also have the crop rotation for Sejiri Steppe. So we have 3 layers of protection, provided we have the mana to do all that. Ancient Tomb. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Show and tell, you say. Interesting. So I guess we put in the Dark Depths. Hive Mind. Oh my. Pact of the Titan. So if you haven't seen this combo before, what they do is they cast this. We get a copy of it, so we cast this. And then we have to pay for this next turn. And we can't pay for this because it's red mana. Pretty cool. All right, so we do want the Duresses, is what you're telling me. Give me my Duresses, please. It's unlikely that we need Sejiri Steppe in this matchup. Although, I'm not really sure what these Hive Mind decks are playing at the moment. Is it blue-black, or is it playing red for... Could have, like, Blood Moon effects. I don't think we're going to need Pithing Needles, though. So let's have a couple of Abrupt Decays in. I think we will leave the Sejiri Steppe in just as a nice thing to have. And this is probably good enough. All right. Pretty cool. Haven't seen Hive Mind for a while. So what does our hand do? Not a lot, unfortunately. All right, let's mulligan this. This will require us to find one of our 12 spells to get one of our 12 cards that represents a Dark Depths. But we will have a lot of disruption here. I believe in the heart of the cards. So we're going to throw away... I'm just going to throw away 1 Lotus Petal here. We want to really mess with our opponent's hand. So we'll get a Bayou, and then we find we've got a 12 in 54 chance of getting our Dark Depths going. But if we don't, we can always just play a Hexmage and beat down. So it's not the end of the world. That's not really how I want to play this game, but sometimes you've got to get down and dirty, right? Let's find this Bayou. I think we lead off on Inquisition. Alright, so they've got a show and tell here. So we'll take the show and tell. Right, there's a Scalding Tarn. So our opponent's going to ponder, so then we're going to be able to hit them again with an Inquisition without them being able to brainstorm. Now they're going to float the best card on top unless they shuffle here. They did not shuffle, okay. So the top card of their library is probably the card we would like to discard. But there's a Lotus Petal. So they're playing this so they can play around. So maybe they put the card in their hand and they want to have access to brainstorm. The crop rotation, what does that do for us? Not a lot at this precise moment in time. But that gets us towards our Marit Lage in the near future. Ponder, Brainstorm, Pact of Negation. Pact of Negation isn't that exciting, is it? That is kind of part of their combo, I suppose, though, isn't it? So if we take that, that makes things slightly more difficult for them. All right, we need another mana source. And then we get to... Okay, they drew an island, and there's a Ponder here. If we get another mana source, we can attempt a Marit Lage. Or if we draw Dark Depths itself, that's also a possibility. I chose not to shuffle the library. So the best card is probably floated on top again. It's a pain for us. A Hexmage. Okay, we don't really have much else to do here. I think we're just going to Thoughtseize again. We're getting brainstormed. So we're unlikely to have a particularly good Thoughtseize here. We take the Pact. Okay, so our opponent is not winning next turn or the turn after, in theory. So it's kind of a 3-card combo. Or is it a 3-card combo? Okay. Black and black. Here is a Vampire Hexmage. And our opponent's turn, we can turn this land into a Dark Depths. And we're all in on this. But it's pretty good if it works. Well, it's very good. It wins us the game. Our opponent is F6'd over there. You got a bounce spell? Or are we just dead? Alright, we got the match. So in the battle of the Fringe combo decks, we came out on top. I had no idea they were playing Hivemind in the second game. I'd be interested to see their list though, because you don't see a lot of Hivemind, and it's not normally a black deck. So I'm curious to see where they've gone with that. But we are 3-0. We're cruising. I love this deck, as you probably guessed. Let's go to round 4. Our opening hand for round 4 is no good. Let's mulligan. So this hand requires us to draw one of 16 cards in our deck. But we would also need to find a green source. So I don't think we can keep this one. This one, on the other hand, slaps pretty hard. So would I rather... So we're going on turn 2 anyway, so I think it's better to throw back the Petal here. Is that right? We're definitely getting rid of the Bojuka Bog. So depends what we think we're going to draw is the question, which is a weird... So if we... I would rather have more lands in general. So if we draw another land, we would like to throw back one of our lands. But if we draw... I think it should be the Petal. That's a really tough call though. Now, this can potentially slow us down a turn, but gives us more resources to operate on. A nice one. Right, let's play a Pithing Needle. Would you like to crack your polluted delta, opponent? You would. Just click Wasteland. I've yet to accidentally click Wasteland Scorpion playing this deck, which I'm sure will happen one day, but so far so good. Yeah, because if we crop rotate with only one land, I'm not going to feel great into a blue deck. So I think we made the right choice here. A Ponder, sure. So our opponent could be anywhere from like Bug Beans, Scam, to full-on Doomsday, or Ad Nauseam Tendrils, or even the Epic Storm. I chose not to shuffle another polluted delta. So next turn we have the potential to go for a combo. So we're going to pass a turn here, holding up a crop rotation for Bojuka Bog, if that's something we require. Not This World is unlikely to be useful if our opponent is on like somewhere around Scam and Bug Beans type thing. Obviously I didn't know that when we drew it. I just saw a polluted delta, which could be any sort of blue deck. Alright, so they've brainstormed, they're shuffling away their brainstorm cards. Get themselves a delicious little underground sea, firing off another brainstorm. This is giving me combo vibes. Why are they sculpting this much? They're evoking a grief. Right, so what we need to do here is crop rotate and get a Dark Depths. They can take the Hexmage, but the Dark Depths is the harder thing to find because we have effectively 12 copies of the Dark Depths and 16 copies of things that combo with Dark Depths. So they're going to take the Hexmage here. Turns out that if we'd have taken the Lotus Petal at the start, we would have at least been able to attempt a combo. But we're just going to draw another Hexmage and it's going to be fine. Come on, deck. That's not another Hexmage. We'll play this card they know about, because if we draw a Thespian stage, then we get to go anyway. Or if we draw anything that goes with our Thespian stage, you get to go. You know, like a crop rotation type thing. Well, specifically crop rotation, in fact. All right, the pitching Animate Dead. So this is Blue-Black Rescaminator, which is a pretty cool deck. Okay, they're Thoughtseizing themselves to put an Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard. Understood. We can beat an Archon of Cruelty if it attacks us, and we can put a 20/20 in front of it. Right, we're going to crack these now. There is a marginal thinning effect. So we want to get a black source so that we can cast a Hexmage. Actually, the Hexmage isn't even very good here, is it? An Inquisition of Kozilek. Alright, let's fire this at our opponent. Get some more information about what they're working with. Right, there's another Archon of Cruelty drawn. So we want to draw... So this is what? We take 9 and then we take 3 next turn. So we have to draw the Thespian stage next turn. Hexmage doesn't work against the Archon of Cruelty because we don't ever have a time to make it where it won't get sacrificed. But what we can normally do is, yeah, so if we can make the 20/20 now, we can then block and kill their Archon of Cruelty and probably win the game. That's not where we're at right now. Sylvan Scrying. We don't have any targets that can deal with this, so we are unfortunately demised. Okay, so this selection of stuff feels pretty good. I don't believe we need... Do we need Pithing Needles? I don't know if this deck does play Wastelands. Wastelands aren't the thing I'm scared of, I suppose. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of Ghost Quarter. Get rid of one Knot of this world. I kind of think I do want a Pithing Needle in here. Kind of splitting the difference a little bit. I don't know how heavy into Reanimate they are. What does this hand do? So we have turn 1... Oh, we can go and fetch 2 different lands with this hand, and we have Disruption. It's kind of slow. So turn 1, we could have this, crop rotate it into Yavimaya, play this, Sylvan Scrying for Thespian stage, and then on turn 3 we get to make a 20/20. Is that good? Is that good enough? With just a Surge Extraction to go with it? Or can we do better? I think we can do better. That is not better. Alright, our opponents begin with 7 cards. Okay, this one works for me. Let's get rid of these 2. See what you're working with, opponent. Daze, Entomb, Reanimate. So the only thing we really care about here is the Archon of Cruelty. So we could take the Reanimate. If we take the Reanimate, then this Entomb's not necessarily doing anything for our opponent. Whereas if we take the Entomb, then they can at least get the Grief back and do some other stuff like that. So I think we take the Reanimate here. And then they will probably Grief us. Depends. What do they want to pitch here is the question. They're not going for anything. Interesting. Thespian stage. Alright, let's Thoughtseize our opponent here. So we've drawn another Reanimate, so I guess we're going to take that as well. And then next turn we have a 20/20, and our opponent doesn't really have a way to combat that. Now if they draw another Reanimate, then good for you, I guess. There's a Swamp. Alright. They have 1 mystery card in hand at the moment. We don't care about any of the other cards they have. Okay, so they still have 1 mystery card. I think we are incentivized to go for it. Alright. That worked out quite nicely. Our opponent does seem quite heavy into the Reanimator there. Is the impression I'm getting. So I don't think they've got Wastelands in their deck. So I don't think we want this Pithing Needle. But what does that mean for the other thing? Are you playing another Knot of this world just in case they have bounce spells? We're playing an Abrupt Decay in case things get weird? Sure, we'll try it like this. I don't really like the main deck Bojuka Bog. The Bojuka Bog in our starting hand, especially since they're only black source. We don't really get to play the game for a couple of turns. So we're going to mulligan here. Our opponent is on 6 at the moment. This hand, it can combo, but it doesn't really have the interaction I crave. I think we can do better. It's pretty ugly. Alright, let's go lower. Okay, I guess we're keeping this. So this goes back, we don't want this one. I like the Urborg. I like the Surgical Extraction. Kind of like the Bojuka Bog, as weird as that is. I guess we can't do instant speed if it's in our hand, but I do like having mana sources. think we get rid of the Petal. Yep, we just have to hope our opponent's got a really super all-in hand that we can punish. Yeah, this was a bit of a brutal mulligan for us here. But we had to. Like, the other hands I don't think did very much. We could go to 3 and just try and have, like, the classic Hexmage, Depths, Urborg. But I don't think that's where I want to be either. I'm trying to go to 3, just chasing that one thing. We have a hand that does some stuff. Like another land, and we're kind of cooking with gas. What have you got, opponent? We're getting grief first. A careful study. Alright. This turns on our surgical extraction. Arcane Artisan. Interesting. Reanimating Arcane Artisan. We're going to pay the life here in case we have to pay around a days. So this is... Okay, so they've got Show and Tell. They've got an Echoing Truth in there, so they do have some blue bounce spells. Got Show and Tell. They've got Brainstorm. Alright. I'm not feeling happy about this. We have the Duress. I don't think we need to fire it off now. They can't grief us next turn anyway. So I think we are just passing the turn. We'd rather Duress them nearer the time. Although we could Duress and take the Echoing Truth when they can't Brainstorm. But I'm pretty sure they're going to Brainstorm this turn. So we can have a look at what they've Brainstormed into a little bit. Although, again, they should be floating the best card on top. And then play for our opponent. And they're not Brainstorming. That's interesting. Little game of cat and mouse we've got going here. Like, if we Duress here, it's not going to do anything. So I don't think there's much point in casting it. It just forced our opponent to cast the Brainstorm. I don't really think that's where I want to be right now. Maybe we should have cast it the turn where they were tapped out. Because we need to get rid of this Echoing Truth. But we might also want to get rid of this Show and Tell, I guess. So our opponent might be Brainstorm locked now. Find out. An island. So they are Brainstorm locked. But they're just going to Show and Tell. What are they going to put in? Do I want to put in a Spirit Guide? No. An Atraxa. It's pretty good. Whole bunch of stuff. So what do they got here? They can go Entomb this turn. They've already played a land, so they can't reanimate this turn. They're going to have a Force of Will. That's going to cause us some issues. Lotus Petal, Ponder, Animate Dead, Force of Will, Polluted Delta. Alright. So this one's the... We might as well get the virtually non-existent marginal thinning here. Thespian's Stage. So if they tap out, we can get them here. Or they're letting us take this Echoing Truth, are they? Interesting. So they have the problem is they have the Force of Will for our crop rotation. If they Ponder, we can try and go in response. We're going to need to find a little bit more room to get through. They're now also going to take 2 hits to kill with a Marit Lage. I'm just going to hardcast this grief. I don't really feel like throwing away our crop rotation and a land into this Force of Will Ponder. Because we could just draw a Dark Depths. That at least gets us towards where we need to be. Like a Dark Depths is a very good draw for us here. A basic forest, you say. So this is 10 damage. And our life total is 10. So we do not have this one. Maybe if you Duress that turn and take the Show and Tell. But then we still have to beat the Echoing Truth. And our opponent has a load of blue cards that cantrip and Ponder their way through. Yeah, a little bit tough. I think we didn't really know what our opponent was doing in game 2 that much because of game 1. So, yeah, a bit awkward. Unfortunately, our little streaks come to an end there, but we got one more. Let's see if we can get the 4-1. All right, for the final round, we're playing against Geodude Jared, who, if memory serves, is a legacy player, as a dredge player in Legacy. So we need to go fast. We have a turn 2 here, so we'll do that. All right, we've got a Faithless Looting coming out here. 2 dredges. Yikes. Maybe they do dredge their entire deck. Alright, we need this dredge to not be too good. 1 Narcomoeba I can live with. We're going to pop their graveyard out because it's an important zone here. So we need them to not be able to put multiple... Oh, okay. This is alright for us. We have a plan. Our plan is Bojuka Bog our opponent's graveyard. So our opponent has a Narcomoeba and a City of Brass versus... Well, like our hand doesn't win the game, But it only needs one thing and then it does win the game. And that's another mana source. We don't really want to... Oh, wow, they just scooped it up. Alright, yeah, I said we don't really want to Thoughtseize our opponent there either. So we managed to kind of get a free one there. So I'll take that. Our opponent's probably going to have bounce spells for the purposes of getting rid of ley lines and things. Which means Not of This World is actually kind of good. Pithing Needle can name Cephalic Colosseum. I think our opponent, if they've got Cephalic Colosseum able to activate, are probably losing already. So I think that's where I want to be. I don't think we want anything else here. So Duress is kind of better than... Is it better than the other ones? Like Duress can hit bounce spells without hitting a lot of their without hitting any of their dredges. So maybe that is better than Inquisition of Kozilek. Because Inquisition of Kozilek can get stuck hitting something like a Stinkweed Imp or Golgari Thug, whereas the Duress doesn't. I think this is fine. The Ghost Quarter is also a strip mine in this matchup, which might be relevant. So what does our opening hand do? It makes a turn 2 20/20. That's not... Is that going to be good enough? Depends. If our opponent has a really explosive turn 1, that's not going to be good enough. Interesting. I think I'm going to mulligan. Am I keeping this? It seems very, very sketchy. Like, I like the surgical here. Our opponent's gone to 5 cards, though. I think having double Graveyard Hate in our opener is probably a pretty good place to be. I'm actually going to get rid of this Thoughtseize, I think. I don't really want to be Thoughtseizing my opponent. Like, when they got less cards, they're more likely to have something we don't want to Thoughtseize, if that makes sense. All right, our opponent's on 5 cards, so we're hoping that our 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate work. Okay, so we only have 1 piece of Graveyard Hate now. But they've mulliganed quite a lot to get to this point. There's the Faith is Looting. So there's 2 options we have against our opponent's deck. We can either try to deal with all their... Okay, we're going to let our opponent blow all their resources if they want to. Okay, I decided they didn't want to. Do we want this Yavimaya in play? I kind of want this Urborg in play. We don't need extra mana, so we should probably just play this Bayou. We don't get to Bojuka Bog them because of the ley line. So we could hit this Faithless Looting, but I don't think that's where we need to be here. Yeah, this is a weird matchup that skews things. It's a bit like playing against... if we'd have kept our turn 2 20/20, I think this hand would have been great. That hand would have been great there, but... Well, Thoughtseize. It's not really the one, is it? So you... I guess we are playing the Urborg now. Or do you just want to get this Bojuka Bog out the way? Now the Urborg does things for us, doesn't it? So we'll just pass. And then when our opponent cracks their Lion's Eye Diamond, we can spring our Surgical Extraction trap and hope that it does stuff. Blue and blue. Is this going to be a breakthrough where X is 1? It is going to be a breakthrough where X is 1. Sure. If we'd have kept our turn 2 hand, we would have just won this one. So that's on us, I think. No dredges. Alright, our opponent is hitting their fail rate here. We'll also have the option to take out all of our opponent's bridges if we want to. Okay, so I think this turn we play out the Bojuka Bog. City of Brass. So they can flashback this Faithless Looting if they want to. And they can tap the Mana Confluences for black mana because of our Urborg. But we don't really care about our opponent's life total as long as it's getting hit in increments of 20, really. I guess there could be some really scrappy games of Spirit Guides and nonsense like that. Right, they have a Dredger. They don't have a way of dredging, though. Oh, Boseiju. If we'd have had that last turn, we could have wiped this graveyard. So we could hit this ley line and then Thoughtseize our opponent. I think that's better than hitting the LED here. If our opponent puts a basic into play, I will be absolutely stunned. Alright, let's see what they got. A Cephalid Colosseum, you say? Interesting. So now we're going to have a choice here. Are we... I guess we're going to play out these Lotus Petals. They're not really helping us out. Are we going to surgically extract this Thug? Or are we going to surgically extract the bridges, which is kind of like the payoff. Like we can't surgically extract enough stuff to stop them. There's a Golgari Gravetroll in there, so we can't hit all of their... Alright. So we can wait till they put all the stuff on the stack as well if we want to. And just try and stop them getting any creatures into play. There's one Narcomoeba. Let's take out their bridges. Not seeing any bounce spells. Which is interesting. It's not letting me click this bridge. There we go. There's 4 bridges in exile now. We've got no cards in hand. They can't bring back a Hogak this turn. They can just bring back a few Narcomoebas. Okay. Knowing how our opponent's sideboarded means that we don't really want these Not of This Worlds. I wish we'd have just kept that first hand that made the turn to 2020. Alright, so our opponent can dump another like 12 cards in the graveyard here. Got another little Narcomoeba. So if we can find another Surgical and take out all the Icarids, then we're okay. Well, you know, we're still going to need to beat these 2 Narcomoebas and, you know, whatever guys they dredge to put into play to attack with. That's not the one though, is it? So we get attacked for 9, 10, 11 this turn, and then they kill us next turn. Yeah. Yeah, we should have just kept the other hand. That's annoying. Alright, do I want Not of This World? No, I've seen that. I don't think we do. Do we want these... What do we want is the question. I guess Pithing Needles for... Cephalid Colosseum makes sense. Sure, we'll try that. Okay, well this hand is a sweet one. I will keep this hand. So we're on the play versus dredge with 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate and a turn 1 2020. Right, starting with a ley line again. Petal, Petal, Dark Depths, Hexmage. Go. So our opponent needs to put a Narcomoeba into play to block, unless they have a bounce spell here. But a Narcomoeba won't work because we just exile them. So this is not going to work for our opponent. Alright, so we finished with a 4-1, which is a pretty good result. I think we probably should have beaten that Show and Tell deck. We didn't quite know what they were doing. Like they were sort of like Reanimator, Show and Tell type thing, but we kind of didn't really know what they were doing that much. And could have sideboarded slightly better for the second game. And maybe we could have Duress then and just taken the Show and Tell. I think we probably still had these ones. So maybe we... I'd be happy to play against that matchup. Like our Reanimator matchup's pretty good anyway. But the blue spells definitely help against us in terms of countering like a clutch, crop rotation or whatever. But I think I'd be okay to play that matchup again. Maybe I don't think actually the way the cards lied that time we would have been able to win that matchup. Even if we did Duress there. Maybe our opponent bricks for a bunch longer and we get there. So maybe we could have done if we'd have Duress when they didn't have Brainstorm mana. I think that was the only play mistake I made. And it's arguable if it is a play mistake. It depends what we're trying to do. I was going for the trying to win line by making sure that we Duressed when we were trying to work around the Echoing Truth. I wanted to get the Brainstorm out of our opponent's hand first. But they kind of outplayed us on the way back by just not casting the Brainstorm. So I think definitely Duressing that would have made a little bit more sense. Whether or not it wins us the game, I don't know. But I think I'll chalk that up as the mistake of this league. Alright, so let's talk about the deck. Absolutely loving it, obviously. I always love this deck. It is my absolute baby. And as you know, I put a lot of time and effort into playing this deck and refining it. Oh, hold on, let's make it so all the cards are on screen here. There we go. So, I think today we sort of showcased a lot of different aspects of the deck in terms of different sorts of sequencing and the resilience of the deck, being able to mulligan to 5 and still have a good job. And we also had some matchups where we had to have like these weird hands that didn't really go anywhere immediately, and because of the matchup was kind of skewed, although we did get punished for that against the dredge player, but we sort of came back and won in the third one with an absolutely bananas hand, which is what this deck sometimes does. We had 2 pieces of interaction for our opponent's combo deck along with a turn 1 lethal threat. Like, what's not to love about this deck? It's proactive. You know, that stat will beat so many decks. Like 2 pieces of free interaction plus a 20/20. Like, what more do you want from Magic the Gathering at the end of the day? I think the build that I'm on now with the additional Inquisition feels good. We didn't really play against all the decks I wanted to play against. You know, but there's so many decks in the format right now. Like, this is supposed to help slightly versus goblins, as opposed to having a Duress or Not of This World. You know, it's marginal percentages, but you've got to tweak where you can tweak. We did play against the odd Hivemind pack deck, but I think what this shows for our deck is that what we're doing is intrinsically powerful, so it has game into everything in the meta. We have the tools to beat bad matchups, like we saw in the Green-White Depths. We did actually manage to beat that bad matchup. Like, there's no such thing as an impossible matchup. Some matchups are very hard, like the lands, like the blue-white, like the up the Bant Stalk, and Green-White Depths. They are hard matchups. We do have the tools, so we can have game plans that will win us the game if things go right. And, you know, we showed that that's possible. We also showed that we are reflexive against, you know, weird archetypes. So like the Hivemind pack deck was something a bit out of left field, but because what we're doing is intrinsically powerful and our interaction is quite flexible in terms of hand disruption, it means that we get to play relatively well into those matchups too. So yeah, I think this deck is in an amazing spot right now. I'd be very happy to take this to a big tournament. I highly recommend getting into it if this is your sort of jam. It's, like I said, it's 147 ticks for this list, which is remarkably cheap for a very competitive Legacy deck. And we have game into a lot of the top decks, so we're pretty good into things like Bug Beans and the Delver variants. It's the lands, the Up the Bant Stalk, which is kind of fallen off in favour of Bug Beans now. And that sort of ilk of deck that we have a little bit of trouble with. Basically, you know, Wasteland plus Caracas plus Swords to Plowshares. That, you know, that's a difficult matchup for us. Like, Death and Taxes isn't quite as bad as lands because they're not loaming back their wastelands all the time and they're not finding the right lands at the right time because that's not what they're tutoring for. But they still have a lot of white removal, so that can be a bit of a pain. And if you have a lot of Death and Taxes in your meta, things like Steely Resolve is quite useful. But Death and Taxes isn't really that big in the meta, so I'm really liking this build at the moment. The two Boseijus, you know, ever since I started playing the two Boseijus, I've never looked back. It's been really great having both of them there. You're way more likely to draw them. At worst, they're a green source, which cast all your green spells, which are, you know, are a key part of our deck. And then, at best, it's a thing that wins you a game you are losing. And that, you know, the ceiling is very high on that, and the floor is also very high, right? It's still functioning in your deck. I think if I was to play a tournament tomorrow, like a big tournament, I would probably register the same 75. I think it's really, really solid. And I think into a competitive meta at the moment, I think you do want the 3 Not of This World and 3 Inquisition of Kozilek. But depending on what your meta is, you can switch it around. But by all means, if you're interested in that, look at my Patreon. That's where I have a very in-depth guide to this. And I'm also writing another article about Turbodepths, about land sequencing. And that will get rolled into the primer for next month as well. So if you are interested in that, by all means, take a look. It's the middle tier on my Patreon. I do appreciate all my subscribers who really help me out there. You know, I put a lot of effort into this because I enjoy it, but it means so much when I get a little bit of feedback from people and, you know, they're looking at it and saying, oh, thanks for this. And there's a lot of people in my Discord, which you can also join in the link below, you know, getting into the deck, asking important questions. And some of those questions then get put into the primer as well, so I can sort of answer them and go on and so forth. All right, I'm rambling enough and I need to go to bed now. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.